Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Tommo and welcome to my post-race Chinwag for the 2024 Mexico City Grand Prix. An eventful race. Was it a good one? I'm not so sure. Let me know in the live chat if you're here on YouTube your race rating out of 10. Then we'll put a little poll together and get an idea what you as a community think of that race out of 10. You know, was it a banger? Was it a clanger? I'm not so sure. Welcome Aviator Knight, Simon, Manya, Michael, Willow, Sterlo, P, Rafe, Rishi, Crispin, Dosu, and all the rest of you. Appreciate you all taking the time. Thank you to everyone also who's listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Video version of this will be going live on Spotify once I'm finished being live on YouTube. Okay, audio only and video if you want to look at me. And I'm breaking out. I've got some nice spots coming up here. Should be some juicy whiteheads soon enough. Also, if you want to support me on Patreon, you can. I will be doing an exclusive members only live stream straight after this one over on Patreon. If you want to support soft, medium, hard tier, you're more than welcome to. I would much appreciate it. We can get in the Discord-esque Patreon chat. It's not Discord, but it's like Discord. It's like a little community tab. It's good. Good vibe. Uploading regular Minton content. Halita, Seamus, and the rest of you, I think you'd agree, okay? Great value for money. Okay, come on then. Let's talk about this race, shall we? Give me some numbers. Numbers 7, 6, 7, 6, 6, 5, 8, 7, 6. Ooh, okay. You know, sometimes we agree, sometimes we do not. And that's the beauty of sport. Right, I'm going to get a poll in the YouTube section. I think, I'm going to have to go, 5 or lower, 6, 7, or an 8 or above as the 4 options on YouTube to give for this Grand Prix. Usually I go around and kind of check, make sure all the background's all sorted. I didn't this time, unfortunately. All is good. Not so good with this. I'm definitely noticing the recession going on here. The Great Recession of Tommo's hairline. Are you here to see it live? I mean, I don't mind if it goes grey. I just don't want to lose it. You know, that's my thing. Right, 42% of you saying a 7. Okay. 36% an 8 and above. I mean, okay. Get a buzz cut. I used to have a buzz cut. It looked terrible because I got a massive head. But I'm away off that. I just need to find a way of saving this bit, okay? Bring back the Turkish Grand Prix. If you know what I mean by that, you know what I mean by that, okay? Wow, okay, yeah, so 75% of you are giving this at least a 7. 21% a 6. Wow, okay. I mean, look, I've got to say, we are not aligned this time. It was an eventful race, but was it a really good Grand Prix? I think it was bang average. I'll give it a 5. Look, most of the intrigue came from bad driving, some naughtiness, okay? It wasn't wheel-to-wheel, exciting racing that caused most of the drama in the race. The rest of it, I mean, Ferrari were dominant. Lando, yeah, he got past Charles, sure, but we didn't really get a wheel-to-wheel because Charles kind of messed up. Sorry, look, I had 5 is bang average, okay? And to me, that's all that was. Sorry, I don't know. Maybe it's because Alex went off. Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe it's just the album bias and the Yuki bias, because you know I love Yuki as well, to be fair. 2 of my favourite drivers going out turn 1. Like, it was okay, but it was pretty average. Like, I don't know. I'd have been more excited if Max and Lando had gone wheel-to-wheel lap after that. More excited if Lando and Charles had gone wheel-to-wheel lap after lap. We had a bit of Mercedes, but sorry. I mean, a 6, okay. I could get on board with a 6 at a stretch, but no way anything higher than that. Sorry. It was okay. I had a good time, but it was nothing special. Bang average. IMO. And anything lower than a 5 means that I've not had a great time. I had an okay time, okay? And again, the nature of the drama It wasn't like, yeah, go on, it was like, why are we here again? Painful. Mr. Hoppy, thank you for the super chat. Great start, great finish, dull middle, solid set. See, what you've just described there, great finish. Was it a great finish? Like a great finish. We've had some great finishes in it. Was that a great? I don't know, Hoppy. I don't know. Anyway, we agree to disagree. Okay, and we'll move on to the race result. Carlos Sainz wins ahead of Lando Norris. Charles Leclerc, P3 fastest lap in the end. Mercedes 4-5, just on their own, middle of nowhere. And Max Verstappen, P6 in the end. 22nd time penalty. 20 laps of Merc snooze fest. Sword. See? I know. That's what I mean. Magnussen, P7. Magnussen was catching Max at the end. Kevin Magnussen in a Haas was catching Max at the end. Didn't get him caught, of course, but he was. That gap was coming down so slightly. Oscar Piastri, P8. A recovery drive. You know, obviously going out in Q1. Certainly didn't go as bad as Checo's race, but really should have been taking points off of Max, to be honest. Should Oscar, but recovered to P8 in the end. Hulkenberg, P9. Double Haas points. Lovely jubbly for them. And Pierre Gasly rounds out the points. Alpine, P10. Great drive from Gasly once again. 2 Q3s back-to-back. And did he score points last race? I can't even remember. I literally don't remember. But either way, well done, Pierre, on P8. Thank you, DR4 Forever, by the way, for the super chat. I feel happy for the Ferrari 1-3, but feel bad for Yuki. Fair. Very unlucky was Yuki. I mean, that's absolutely fair to say. Shadow Queen as well. Thank you for the super chat. If we get this in 2023, Tommo gives it an 8. You know what? Maybe. Shadow, you know what? It's all relative, isn't it, right? If you've had a really dull season and then you get a race that isn't that dull, then it's like, whoa, 9 out of 10. We've been sport this year. It's a 5. I still stick to a 5, not even a 6. I still stick to a 5 for this race, okay? Lance Stroll, P11. Franco Colapinto, P12. Esteban Ocon, P13. Valtteri Bottas, 14. Zhou Guanyu, 15. Liam Lawson, P16 after contact towards the end with Franco. Sergio Perez, P17. Nightmare Grand Prix. Home Grand Prix for Sergio. We've said that far too many times, haven't we? Fernando Alonso, brake trouble. I believe, wasn't it? I'm sure it was brake trouble, right? Tommo hairline looking like a 2012 F1 car. Sorry, I've just seen that one, Alex. That's kind of true. Alex Albon also and Yuki Tsunoda, of course, out of the race. 400 Grand Prix and Fernando's ends with a brake cooling difficulty, trouble, retirement, which kind of summarises, look, yes, he's won 2 world titles, but with the ability and talent of Fernando Alonso, he should have won far more. And, it's just not worked out at Aston Martin, has it? And will he be there long enough to reap the fruits, the unrealised fruits of an Adrian Newey injected 2026 car? I'm not so sure. I hope so. I really hope so. Thank you, Gladiate, for the super chat. Appreciate it. Decision to keep Perez and drop Ricciardo was already unjustifiable, but this race beyond diabolical. I can't speak today. Perez should be embarrassed. I know people like to pretend Rick was bad, but he would have been better than Perez. Yeah, I mean, look, we will never know how Daniel Ricciardo would have performed in that Red Bull with the specific requirements needed to drive that Red Bull well. Okay, Daniel didn't have the requirements within him to drive the McLaren well for his 2 seasons at McLaren, apart from at very specific tracks, which is kind of exactly what we're seeing from Checo. Checo cooks at Baku, mid everywhere else. Ricciardo cooks at Monza in the 21 McLaren, mid everywhere else. But I believe, and I've said this many a time, that there was more to suggest that Ricciardo's inherent driving style would suit the Red Bull, because it did in the past. And that's the same car. Max has been at that team since 2016 now as well. I reckon Ricciardo would have done a better job than Perez, but also Ricciardo just didn't shine enough to really give Red Bull, I guess, the confidence to go, because maybe he would have just been as bad as Perez. You know, we just don't know. And the same kind of, I mean, look, we'll see with Liam. I mean, it certainly wasn't as impressive a performance as last weekend for Liam Lawson. But again, it's about who's right for that car and not who necessarily deserves the seat. That's what Red Bull need to be thinking about. Thank you, N Pine, as well, for the super chat. Have Ferrari made a mistake by replacing Sainz? We all knew this shouldn't come as a surprise, lads. So Sainz has shown what he's capable of in a Ferrari since he joined in 2022. So, yeah, I mean, he's got these kind of results in his locker. Ferrari knew what they were letting go, and they chose to for the sake of Lewis. Lewis could do... Look, do I rate Lewis higher than Carlos? I do. In that Ferrari, again, you know, there's no guarantee you move from team to team that performance is going to, you know, move with you at the same level. There's a lot to be said for, you know, grass ain't always greener. And that's the term I'm looking for. Thank you, Shatter, as well, for the super chat. 6 drivers winning multiple races in 24, only second time in F1 history, even without a proper championship fight. Surely one of the great F1 seasons. Yeah, look, Shatter, I absolutely think this will be reflected on. You know, there's obviously a narrative that's been pushed for a long time that there's this championship fight going on. Again, I think Singapore was a done deal, and I think even, you know, a decent swing in Lando's favour today, I don't think changes the championship complexion. I'd love to get gassed about championship fight, but I can't if I don't believe there is one. I think Max will still just continue to get enough out of the rest of this season. He's too good to let this slip. But yes, it has been certainly from. I mean, this constructors fight is going to go down to the absolute wire. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about the driver standings after 20 of 24 race weekends. Max Verstappen 362 points, Lando Norris 315. The maths on that gap is 47 points. It's still too much. Leclerc to Norris. Now that is a 24-point gap. I can do maths. Piastri is 40 points behind Leclerc. It doesn't look like Oscar's going to catch Charles. He's hit a bit of a patch at a inconvenient time. But again, I mean, driver standings apart from P1, none of these positions really matter. It's the constructors, and Ferrari 2-1-2s in a row is hella impressive. Harvey, did I see Lawson flipping off Perez? Of course I did. Which was wow. Liam's he's got some fire in his belly, isn't he? Oh, Liam. He's probably upset, you know, he didn't get a seat in the first place, you know, when De Vries got that seat initially. And then, of course, Ricciardo comes in and replaces De Vries. And then he replaces Ricciardo and does a really good job. And then he doesn't get a seat for this year. And Perez, there's a lot of understandable frustration baked in, I think, to Liam Lawson. And, you know, he wasn't taking any prisoners today, was he? He was not taking any prisoners. And perhaps that is the approach that he needs to take, you know? I mean, there's certainly an argument for that. Right, in terms of driver standings positionally, because Hulkenberg gained a bunch of points this weekend, as did Kevin Magnussen. Ricciardo drops a position. Sorry, Daniel. As does Alex Albon, because Magnussen jumps to both of them. Other than that, everyone is in the same position as they were before. But obviously the gaps have changed. So, yeah. Thank you. David, I'm sorry. Just got back from F1. I hope you had a good time at F1 Arcade, David, though. F1 Arcade is a good night out. Spenny cocktails. That's what I would say. But then you're in St. Paul's, aren't you? So I'm assuming you're at the St. Paul's one. Maybe you weren't. Maybe you're at the Boston or Birmingham ones. Right, cool. So driver standings are as that. But the more interesting battle really is this one. The constructors. Finally, Red Bull moved behind Ferrari. Were they already behind Ferrari before this race? I can't even... I had to change the graphics, so I think they were. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Right, McLaren to Ferrari. 566 points to 537. That's a 29-point gap. They weren't. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Hence why I had to change the graphic. 29 points between McLaren and Ferrari. Now, obviously, Oscar's had a little bit of he went out in SQ1, and then he qualified 5th in Austin, and then obviously goes out in Q1 here, which was his first Q3 miss of the season. Q3, not SQ3. And look, I think Oscar, he makes that mistake, and he's comfortably through, I think, if he doesn't make that mistake, because of the time loss that comes with it, as well as the time being deleted. But yeah, I mean, Oscar needs to be firing on all cylinders, I think, because Ferrari are cooking at the moment, and Vegas as well. That's one where I really do see Ferrari picking up big points, probably another 1-2 at Vegas. They are looking very, 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 very grazie ragazzi. They are absolutely. Ferrari 25 points now, ahead, of Red Bull Racing. Damn, 25 points ahead. Who would have, after 5 races, think like this is going to be the constructor standings? Jeez, crazy. Mercedes, again, middle of nowhere, 366 points now. Aston Martin, 86, Haas 46. So they closed the gap to 40. 40 points is too much, I think, to expect of Haas in order to catch. Look, all Haas can do is carry on putting themselves in the top 10 and hoping that, if Lando can start knocking on the door with Max and there's a few more shenanigans, they might crash into each other and the Haas boys inherit points. That would, that's certainly doable, because the thing is, there is a potential drivers' championship fight here. It's not, I don't think it's going to happen, but it's a potential one. But you do have a constructors' fight here between Ferraris and the McLaren, so they are fighting for something, which, as this season goes on and gets closer and closer to the end, there's more potential for, Charles and Carlos and, Max and Lando and Oscar to trip up over one another. So, yeah, that's all they can do. That's all they can do, and hope for things out of their control, which, 4 Grand Prix still to go. 2 sprints. There's a chance. Ooh, something's gone wrong with this webpage. I'm assuming I'm still live. For some reason, my YouTube streaming thing has just crashed, but I still appear to be live. Is everyone there? Yeah, I think you're there. Yeah, I think we're good. Okay, cool. So, team standings are as this. Yeah, I'm here. Okay, I'm very live. Excellent. Good to know. Let's reflect, shall we? Let's reflect on stream of the past, okay? Stream of the past, the pre-race Chinwag for the 2024 Mexico City Grand Prix. Is it the Mexico City Grand Prix? Is it the Mexican Grand Prix this year? I don't know. Either way, predictions. Mine, you know what? You know the headline prediction, okay, that's coming in. You know full well the headline prediction that's coming in here, because I did predict Carlos Sainz race win. Thank you very much. Grazie ragazzi. Lovely jubbly. Vamos. Banger drive Pierre Gasly. You know what? Considering where he qualified P8 in an Alpine and got a P10 points finish, I'm giving myself half a point for Pierre. Okay. Clanger drive Yuki Tsunoda. It wasn't his fault, the contact, but he did shunt in qualifying, which is a big L. I'm saying half a point for Yuki, okay, for the shunt in qualifying. I think that's fair. It was his fault, was it? What, Yuki's crash was his? I think that's more unlucky than anything else. I don't know. Really? I don't think it was his fault. I think it's the Alpine squeezing Albon. You're going 3 wide essentially there. I don't think it was any particular driver's fault, in my opinion, the Yuki Tsunoda incident. For the avoidance of doubt, it's one of them where it just ends up being 3 wide, and Gasly doesn't know Yuki's on the far side. He's kind of squeezing Albon a bit, and it just kind of, yeah. I don't think that was on fault of Yuki or Alex or Pierre or anyone. Just think it was just unfortunate racing incident into turn 1. Banger team Alpine, they did get a point. I wouldn't go as far to say they're a banger team though. Okay, I'm not even give myself half a point for that. Mercedes Clanger, again, it wasn't great, but it could have been worse. So yeah, I'm gonna give myself 2 points out of 5 for that. my opinion. 2 points out of 5 for my predictions, which I'm pretty happy with. But then you guys still beat me. So Max, race winner, incorrect. Liam Lawson, banger drive, incorrect. Clanger drive, Checo. Banger team, Ferrari. 1-3. Take that. Clanger team, Aston Martin. Look, it's Fernando Alonso's 400th race, and you can't even give him a car that he can finish the race with. So you know what? I'm giving you the point for that. I'm giving you the point. Okay. Well done, you. You win again. You always beat me in predictions. It's almost like your collective minds are somehow bigger because I've got a big head. Right? There's a lot of mind in here. Okay. Too much. Uncomfortable amount of mind in here because some of my caps are way too tight, even when the strap's fully under. Yet you still beat me every time. It's just, what's going on? What's going on? Okay. Oh dear. But anyway, those were the predictions. Okay, so well done you. But what about the actual reflection on this weekend's Mexico City Grand Prix? Bangers and clangers time. Who banged, who clanged this weekend? Starting off with banger driver. It's two of them. There are literally only 2 drivers who could possibly take this vote. Carlos Sainz, pole position, 2 laps good enough for pole position and converted a race win. Kevin Magnussen, P7 in qualifying, maximised qualifying in a Haas and converted P7. Yeah, because he was ahead of Oscar. Almost forgot that. There's only 2. And Carlos will rightly get his flowers. But I'm giving it to Kevin. Because Kevin, you know what? This is his farewell tour. Okay, this will be his last Mexican Grand Prix. This is his last season in F1. There's no way he's getting that Sauber seat. That's just not happening. They just take Haas's driver partner pairing and just put it in the Sauber. It's not happening. Kevin, you know what? He's got a result like this in him. It doesn't happen anywhere near often enough. He also finished way clear of Nico Hülkenberg. I think he was like 15 seconds, chat. Can someone... I'm sure it definitely double digits ahead of Nico in the end. Out-qualified Nico as well. For me, was it 20? Damn. See, look, he chefed Hulk, which hasn't happened very often, right? And is part of the reason why he won't be staying on in F1. But this was a hell of a weekend from Kevin Magnussen, and I want to give him his credit. So, fair play, Kevin. Great job, Carlos. Obviously, goes without saying. But I've given it to Kevin. As for you, you've given it, 1,423 of you, to Carlos. Fair enough. 41% of the vote. No, that can't be right. 41% of the vote. Wait, these numbers aren't numbering. These numbers that I'm looking at are not numbering. Hang on a second, right? It's almost like I've made a mistake, which is so unlike me in these streams. Hang on. Oh yeah. Okay, so all right, hang on. So Carlos did win the vote, okay, of 1,423 of you who did vote, and again, thank you very much for voting. However, he did not win with 41% of the vote. He won with 71% of the vote. And you know what? I'm not going to bother changing it. 71% of the vote for Carlos Sainz, 18% Kevin Magnussen, 6% Lando Norris. There were only 3 drivers who received any degree of votage in the banger drive category. So there's only 3 drivers worth putting on here. Okay. And you know what? Considering, obviously started P3 Lando, didn't do too much wrong all race and got past Charles. He had a few more laps. Maybe he's catching Carlos, drove pretty well, to be honest. Yeah, slow math hand. Look, listen, it's 20-12. We lost an hour, gained an hour. I don't know, whatever it is. So it should actually be 20-1 in the morning. So that's my excuse. Okay, there's my excuse. Bank it in early. Right, so your banger drive is Carlos Sainz. My banger drive is Kevin Magnussen. Clanger drive, for me, is Checo. Obviously, qualifying was a nightmare out in Q1. And he gets a 5-second penalty for not being in his grid box, which is like, that's just such a silly penalty. It's such a silly penalty. It's such a inexcusable penalty. I mean, the way he was like, oh no, like I wasn't outside the box. Check it. It's like he was so clearly outside the box. It's such a silly penalty. A driver of his experience shouldn't be making those kind of mistakes. It's home Grand Prix as well. It's like, I don't know, maybe that added pressure kind of was playing a part in it. I don't know. And it was just a bad race. I mean, obviously he had his little scrap with Liam, which you can definitely argue Liam deserved the penalty, but then, you know, Checo forced Stroll off, and obviously then he got damage after the incident with Liam, and then Liam flipped the bird at him, which obviously is funny. Obviously that is just funny. And couldn't get fastest lap at the end. He did have a hole in his side pod. Not a massive hole, but he did have damage, and he had damage to his floor. So, you know, fair enough in not getting the fastest lap from Charles Leclerc when he went for it. But yeah, just this now, where F1 is, you know, with Ferrari and McLaren being quicker than Red Bull, like, there is, you can't carry on justifying for an organisation the size of Red Bull, with the money that Red Bull GmbH have, you know, to be keeping a driver on who is clearly not there for performance reasons and hasn't been there for performance reasons for a very long time. It's just, you know, it's fine when Max is dominating and, you know, they've got a massive gap to the rest of the field in car performance. That's no longer the case, and it won't be the case for the rest of this year or any of next year. And yeah, I mean, it's done. Surely it's done. There's nothing more to say. Yeah, so your clanger drive was also Checo. 53% of the vote. 39% of the vote went to Max Verstappen, which, you know, you think, you know, where he qualified, and the fact he was leading out of turn 1, lap 1. Great job off the start, as he always does. Great restart as well, obviously from the safety car with Yuki and Alex. They get 39% of the vote, and we all know why. Liam Lawson 2% as well. Yeah, Liam had a messy one. He had a messy one. Okay, messy one. If you try and say Max was above average, I'll literally answer. Oh, I mean, there were many good things about Max's race, and there were 2 very bad things about Max's race. So, you know, you decide how it all comes together. 94%, yes. Well, yeah. There's no other vote, Brookler, that justifies it. It's like everyone getting a couple of votes either way, so there's no point in putting it. What's with the math? I always do this. I always, whenever there is, you know, the vote spread. In fact, right, I'll tell you. Right, so I'll give you right. So Liam Lawson, 2% of the vote. The next highest was, so Yuki got 1.3% of the vote. So to 19. It's not even like Oscar got 1.2% of the vote, 17 votes. So it's not worth putting them in. So I've always done it this way, and I continue to do it this way. Okay. This is my show, not yours. Right? It's my swamp. Bangers, clangers, banger team next. My banger team for the 2024 Mexico City Grand Prix is Haas. Wonderful work, Haas. Wonderful work, Komatsu. Double Q3, double points. Magnussen was catching Max at the end. He didn't catch him, but he was catching him. Come on. Surely, for the smallest team in F1, the turnaround, Komatsu, team principal of the year. Got to be. Fabulous. The Haas slander, we can put it to bed. It is a thing of the past. It's beautiful. I love to see it. Proper team Haas, and it proper little. Oh, has anyone watched? Right. If you're not in the UK, you probably, I don't know if it's region locked or something. Komatsu went to Coventry City, And it's like, he's like a proper Coventry City fan. And it was like, honestly, I was sat there just watching the whole thing, just smiling. Because I'm like, he just seems like such a like decent bloke. And he's going to the football and getting well excited. And then the Coventry City players went to Banbury, went to Haas and did like, it was just really wholesome. I really enjoyed that bit of TV. Okay, that was really fun. You should watch it if you can. It's like 17 minutes, something like that. So you can sink your teeth into it. Okay. My banger team was Haas. Your banger team, 55% of you said Ferrari, 44% of you said Haas. Okay. Okay. Now you're going to ask who were what it only adds up to 99%. So where's the other votes? Okay. So 8 people gave Mercedes banger team. Okay, there you go. This is really insightful. Really adds to the stream. 5 people gave McLaren the vote for banger team. Wow. Oh, yeah, that really deserves me spending time typing out, oh, Mercedes, banger. Yeah, no. We're not. No. We are not doing this, okay? We are not doing this. I'm not acknowledging. Silencing the views. Yes, Ben, I will silence the viewers. Absolutely. This is a tyranny, okay? Right here. This is my swamp. Like I say it before, I say it again. Right. Now, you lot went you lot went Ferrari, banger team, and fair enough. Like, they have been cooking since Monza. Been fabulous to see the Ferrari, the Scuderia back at the top again. And tell you what, because Red Bull will find something over the winter. I've got no doubt in my mind. Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull. Look, if Mercedes can, pull their socks up as well, maybe they're part of the fight next year. That could be simply lovely. Thank you, Raphael, by the way, for super chat. Very kind of you. Do appreciate it. What do you mean? This is your show and you make the rules. Don't like. Love the content. Thank you, Raphael. That's right. But I know what you want more than you do. Okay. I know. Right. Clanger team. Starting with mine. My Clanger team this weekend is Red Bull. Your Clanger team this weekend is Red Bull. 74% of you said it. I also said it. I mean, the car's just really... Magnussen was catching... Like, it was... that. I mean, look, without the 20 seconds of penalty, I think Max is probably still getting passed by the Mercedes, in my opinion. I know the gap, it was like maybe 10 seconds, but then the Mercedes were fighting for ages and costing each other time. So I reckon, and obviously George had his damaged front wing as well. I think without George's damaged front wing, he definitely finished ahead of Max, even without the penalties. Lewis, he seemed to be running more downforce. So would he have actually got past Max? It would have been fun to see. I reckon he'd have given him a run for his money. I reckon that could have been good fun. But yes, clanger from Red Bull, absolutely. 10% Aston. Oh my God, what was that? I just like hiccuped and like burped at the same time or something. That was very strange. 10% Aston Martin, 9% Racing Bulls. I don't think too much. Racing Bulls, you know what? Actually, given their pace, I expected more from them this weekend. Obviously, again, Yuki was, I think, very unlucky at the start, and Liam obviously had his contact with Franco and was getting caught up in a lot of shenanigans, right? And then Sauber 5%. I mean, that's a hiccup. It kind of is a hiccup, isn't it, AJ? Yeah, Sauber 5%. Same old Sauber, really, innit? So there, your bangers, Sainz and Ferrari. Your clangers, Checo and Red Bull. My bangers, Kevin and Haas. My clangers, Checo and Red Bull. There you go. Lovely jubbly. Happy days. Grazie ragazzi. Also, before any of you are like, 37% of the vote clanger drive Max. All your viewers are British. The British bias. Yeah. Right, before any of that, before you try any of that, okay? Actually, this is my geography for my live streams, okay? Only 21.5% of you who watch these live streams, either live or after the fact, are British. So 78.5% of you are not British. Here's some statistics for you, okay? Okay? Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Yeah, I know. US is the most, 22.5%. Lovely jubbly. Right, okay. Let's go team by team then. Let's go team by team. Oh, Amadio, you're from Mars. They don't have Mars on the list of geographies, but I'll see if YouTube will add that. Right, Alpine. First of all, look, since they brought the upgrade, Gasly's gone, double Q3. I feel like they're on to something, I guess. I mean, obviously Ocon had a bad time in qualifying. Pit lane start in the end, recovered, P13 in the end. I mean, ahead of Bottas and Joe. Hard to get too excited about it. And, in terms of race pace, the Haas firmly ahead of the Alpines. But they seem to have found something, I guess, steadied the ship somewhat. Gasly's doing a decent job and a better job than Ocon as of late, which is good for Alpine because Ocon's the one leaving and Gasly's the one staying. So, obviously Ocon didn't have the upgrade last week. He did this week and it didn't really work for him. It's one of them. It's hard to really know to what extent Gasly is cooking because it's hard to know where that car is. But they seem to be okay. Nothing more, nothing less. But, I'm happy to see them somewhat doing something of some reference that we're sitting here and I'm going to have talked about them for more than 10 seconds. So, well done for that, Alpine. Less can be said about Aston Martin. Alonso was pretty happy not after qualifying because of Yuki crashing, but he was happy with the pace of his Q2 lap. He felt like Q3 was pretty on, and he was he was happy with the car underneath him in qualifying, should I say. But then, of course, the brake overheating happened, and car go bye-bye. Stroll was okay. His race pace was okay. It's crazy, isn't it? Like, the start of last year, this was the second best team. Fernando had opportunities to win races, and Monaco, if he'd, pit at a slightly different time, or hadn't done the extra pit stop, should I say, he's winning that race like that. And the fall off has been painful to watch. It's a beautiful car. I want to see more of it on screen. We don't see enough of it on screen. And they kind of let Fernando down. It's kind of sad, really. Like, 400 Grand Prix is such an achievement. And to have your Grand Prix end like that was, pretty painful. But at least the car looks good. I've got nothing more to say. I really don't. Ferrari. Well done. Leclerc, Charles wasn't as happy with the car kind of throughout the weekend, was he? Obviously, Carlos got that double P1 in qualifying, and Charles just, he was a few tenths off Carlos, and on his quick lap he almost lost it, didn't he? In the S's, he had a snap. Whether he almost lost it or not, I guess is a stretch. But Carlos was quite comfortably the quicker driver this weekend. I think that's fair to say. It does happen. It doesn't usually happen. It's usually Charles on top. But this weekend was all about Carlos. And he has that moment, obviously trying to carry as much speed as possible to keep Lando behind. But he really wasn't happy with his... You could see, the way Carlos was opening that gap towards the end. Charles was like edging that gap down. And then he obviously he'd minced his tyres, and hence why he had the moment, because he's pushing so much to carry as much speed out of that final corner as possible. It was a good save. It was a very good. It was very, very. That left rear was so close to that wall, so close. But yes, this weekend was Carlos's all over. Makes you think, doesn't it? Like, damn, with this momentum. We've been looking back over the last weeks at missed opportunities for Lando and McLaren, right? You look at Canada, you think, oh, Lando, if he'd pitted then. Bruv, like, look at Ferrari in Canada. Charles was nowhere. Both of them were nowhere. Like, actually now that Ferrari are looking like they're the ones who they're going to take this constructors to the wire, you got to think, damn, Ferrari and half missed some opportunities as well. Like, geez, I think we're going to reflect on this season. I think Ferrari are going to have to reflect on this season, being like, wow, this actually ended up being the one that got away. Because we could have won at one of these championships, and maybe they'll win the constructors. They won't win the drivers. But could have. Fired the... I mean, look, people love to knee-jerk, okay? I fired the wrong driver. I mean, look, Carlos never deserved to be fired, okay? I mean, that's clear and obvious. But also, Ferrari knew the driver they had on their hands, and they've made a decision to replace Carlos with Lewis Hamilton. And again, I mean, I rate prime Lewis Hamilton clear of prime Carlos Sainz, that's for sure. Question is, where do you rate Lewis right now relative to Carlos Sainz right now? That's a different conversation entirely. But yeah, they're breaking up the best driver partnership in Formula One. You know, I mean, this is the best driver partnership in Formula One, and they're breaking it up, and hopefully for Ferrari it works for them. You know, thank you DR4 again for the super chat. Hamilton is giving Mansell in '94 vibes. Keep Carlos. I think, look, motivationally, you know, Lewis knows he's leaving. He's got this difficult Mercedes car underneath him. He's clearly not, you know, satisfied and happy with. And look, the team are moving towards George. Of course they are. They're entitled to. That's how they should go, because George is their future. Lewis is their present and past, but he's not their future. And so that's gonna, you know, there's a lot going to be going on in Lewis's mind, right? Whenever it comes to these races, like it happens every driver when they're leaving. You know, they get insecure about what things are being kept from them and stuff like that, right? And Carlos has to keep his stock high because he's going to Williams. He's not going to a direct rival, realistically, is he? And maybe in 26 onwards, but that's a stretch even that, right? So it's like Carlos needs to keep his stock high. He needs to keep himself in the shop window. And the more he can perform at the end of this season, the more he can be like, look, if Williams don't hold up their end of the bargain or a better opportunity opens up in 2026, he'll be like, I'm here. Because he will definitely have that release clause in his contract, surely. You'd think so. And yeah, I mean, look, what more can you say? I think Carlos always had this in him, and he's done this many a time before, and he's done it again. So happy for him, fair play. First Spanish kind of native speaking driver to win in Mexico. That was pretty cool. And he thoroughly deserved it. So well done him. And yeah, Charles, just was never on it at all this weekend, which is, you know, it's kind of thing where he needs to understand why. Because next year, there's no excuse for Charles not to be mounting a title fight next year in a Ferrari. So he needs to make sure he understands why things didn't go right this weekend. Thank you, Kiefer, by the way, for the super chat. Who would you sign at Sauber if you were team principal, Tommo? I'd shut the paddock and sign Chinwag to partner. Just bring the Haas band back together. Well, actually, while we're talking, we might as well go to the Sauber section while you say that. Kiefer, if I was team principal, I would sign... At Sauber, if I was team principal, I'd sign Franco. I think I'd sign Franco. Only, though, caveat, if it's like, you know, Williams can't take him back. You know what I mean? Like, I'd sign him as long as it's like, we got him, right? You can't take him back after 2 years or any of that nonsense. If I wasn't able to do that, I'd then probably go for... I mean, Teo's obviously not shown enough for them to give him the chance, right? So that kind of tells me enough. I mean, Bortoletto and Colapinto both would be huge commercially. Do Audi need a commercially viable driver? No. But I think they can afford to take a youngster alongside Nico Hülkenberg. So, yeah, I mean, it's Bortoletto or Colapinto for me. That's what I'd do. But yes, Sauber. Bottas, like, he got out of Q1, which is a thing. Race just kind of, I mean, they were the last cars on track outside of Lawson and Perez, because obviously they both had contact and had to replace wings and stuff. They were the last cars on track that didn't have any incidents, so they're still the slowest. Are they closing the gap? Possibly. Probably. I would say probably that there is a slight closing of the gap between Bottas at least, and then Joe has been... Look, I know, there's been Grand Prix where Joe's had a bit of a Frankenstein car, and that's certainly not helped his cause, but he's really been disappointing this year. Like, I didn't think he was too bad after the first 2 seasons. Like, relative to a 10-time race winner in Valtteri Bottas, I was like, I think Joe's done all right, and I think he can kick on this year. And wow, that was egg on my face, because he's, not very good, Joe. But I think you should stay there as a reserve, because Audi could do with selling some cars in China, because VW Group is struggling at the minute. And a big part of that is lowering sales in the Chinese market. So that's the thing. But yeah, Sauber, it's a bit better, but it's still not great. Thank you, Chinwag, for the super chat. Lewis is a disgruntled employee. Toto is upset. Yeah, I mean, look, Mercedes, it's they're just kind of in the middle. They were under no pressure from anyone but themselves. So they just let them race. I mean, they were comfortably... If they're not fighting each other, and obviously, if George hasn't got that damage to his front wing, which was obviously messing up his aero balance, then they're comfortably ahead of Verstappen in terms of race pace. So I'd say the third quickest car on the day, but they were nowhere near the McLaren of Lando Norris and the Ferraris. So, yeah, I mean... It's just, this has been, the whole ground effect has just been completely up and down. Like, how did Mercedes win a race in 2022 with George in Interlagos? Like, will they cook in Brazil again? Maybe. Like, who knows? Who knows with Mercedes? I feel obviously now they've got James Allison back in the F1 team. Perhaps he's going to steady this ship somewhat. Obviously, I think he's had an immediate impact. I think it's more, for next season onwards. And, they've got good power unit. They were bad in Brazil last year, that's true. But they were really good in 22, so maybe, these things skip a generation. I don't know. Damage was George's fault. I mean, it's just... It's difficult. It's difficult. Like, it's difficult to read. Maybe. I can't believe they've won 3 races this year. It's mad, isn't it? It's actually mad. I don't know. I don't envy all you Mercedes fans out there, because this has been a up and down emotional season, I think. And it's a shame it's ending with Lewis in a bit of a damp squib, but game's the game, and Ferrari are cooking. So you know what? That must only make Lewis just get this season done. Get it done. Get me in red, and get me winning races, and potentially an 8th world title in 2025. Imagine that. What a story. I don't think it will happen, to be honest, but it would be a vibe if it did. Absolute vibe if it did. Thank you, Tommy, as well for the super chat. Are we buying the Liam Rebel Racing Franco V-Carb rumours? Well, these are good segues. Chat, these are good segues to the sections. Racing Balls, Liam Rebel Racing. I mean, very good race. Of the sample set of 2, Liam had a very good race in Austin. He had look, I know it was a bit messy, but actually, I don't think, he had a scrap with Colapinto and he had a scrap with Perez, and I don't think Liam was bad, like, to be honest. And he was kind of elbows out, and I don't think he had a bad race. It just wasn't great. It was messy. And again, obviously Yuki in qualifying crashes. Liam was up on his Delta. Whether he would have made it to Q3, it's very difficult to say. And then, yeah, I do believe I think I've seen enough angles of the incident to suggest that Yuki was a bit unlucky. I think he was absolutely entitled to put his car where he did. And I think Albon was like not really giving him, he's just about a car's width, but very, very marginal. And it's risky, of course it is. But I mean, it's the best opportunity to make up positions. And that's where you calculated risks. I think it was worth going for it. I wouldn't begrudge Yuki for going for that move. And again, Albon gives him just enough space until Gasly, coming up to the corner, starts to move over, and then Alex essentially becomes a bit of a sandwich between the two. And unfortunately, you got obviously where Alex is, he can see Pierre moving over, whereas Yuki's kind of in a bit of a blind spot there. He knows Yuki's there, but also he can see Gasly moving across, so it's like, what do you do? But Gasly can't see Tsunoda, so it's like, these things happen. 3 wide into turn 1 is, as we saw from Checo last year, often, and as we saw from, so many examples of that, isn't it? When you go 3 wide and it just doesn't work. Singapore, Verstappen, Raikkonen, Vettel, 2017. Great example of that one. So yeah, unlucky from Yuki, but he crashed in qualifying, so that wasn't good. Liam Red Bull, look, it can't be Checo in that car. It can't be Checo in that car. Who knows? Christian, just, you know what? Yeah, Daniel, you're in. Like, imagine. It's not going to happen. But imagine. He didn't write it off, did he, Christian? It's not about who deserves it. Again, it's not about who deserves to be in that Red Bull. Red Bull, their only thing they should be, who can drive this car? The requirements, the nuance needed to extract the ceiling of performance from this car. Who drives like that? Who drives as close to Max's style, because that's clearly the style that gets the most out of this car. Who can do it? It doesn't matter who deserves it. It could be Daniel. Would he deserve it? Absolutely not. But I don't know. It could be Brendan Hartley. Bring him. He's still doing WEC. Bring him back. Just chuck Brendan Hartley. Chuck him in. Like, why not? Right? I don't know. Yeah, Vettel. Bring him out of retirement. Get him back in. Right? Jean-Eric Verne. Sebastian Buemi. Sebastian Bourdais. Jaime Al-Jaswari. Stop being a DJ. Get in the Red Bull. I don't know. Right? Throw caution to the wind. Try something different. I don't know. Like, it's who can drive that car the best, not who deserves it. Mark Webber. Imagine that. Manager versus managee. Oscar versus whatever. Scott Speed. Scott Speed is Chinwag is a fever dream. Yeah, that's a very good way of describing it, Helena. But yeah, look, I don't think Liam drove bad. And, well, there's Fox. Is that Fox? I think I heard a Fox that time. I don't think he drove that bad, but it also, yeah, it was messy. Next team, Haas. Again, what more can you say? Like, the turnaround at Haas has been phenomenal. I would love to, I just really love to understand what actually has changed, right? From the inside. What has Aokamatsu changed within that team? What is he doing that Gunther Steiner was not doing with that resource? If Gunther was still in charge, would they still be where they are? You can never say no, okay? We don't know. Correlation doesn't always equal causation, but it does seem to imply that whatever Gunther was doing wasn't working and whatever AU is doing instead is. And yeah, I'm really happy for him because, a team that's operating with this, even in the cost cap era, they're able to thrive and turn their ship around. And look, as much as McLaren's turnaround really does put the put the spotlights on your teams like your Alpines and your Aston Martins. Why have you not been able to do that when you have every bit of resource? Renault Group have the resource if they want to put into that team, and they want to operate it on a shoestring and try and achieve loads, blah, blah, blah. And it's embarrassing for them. And Aston Martin have everything, right? Yes, I know they're going through home changes and that, but they still, you know, given where they were at the start of last season, it's quite frankly, McLaren are making them look embarrassing by doing what they're doing. But now you've got Haas, who are like, all of a sudden, hang on, like, what's your excuse, Sauber, Audi? Like, what's your excuse? You know, what's your excuse? Like, what Haas are doing it with limited resource, smallest team, smallest budget. It's not just about money, you know. I think we're potentially going to see this with Aston Martin. You know, get all the high-profile signings you like. It's about human beings working together, and at Haas it wasn't working. But was it just not working because they lacked, you know, the relative personnel numbers and budget? They still do lack those things, but now they're achieving, and they could catch Aston Martin for P5 in the... I don't think they're gonna, but there's a chance. Yeah, I mean, it's been a hell of a season from Haas. Hell of a season. Williams. Yeah, I mean, again, look, Alex was pretty unlucky. Yuki was unlucky. Pierre was unlucky. I see it no more than that. It's a racing incident as far as I'm concerned. Qualifying, he got Q3. He needed that because like the pressure's been building up, and especially after that crash in practice, which I do think was majority on Alex for sure. In my opinion, I think that I don't know. I mean, okay, could Ollie have gone off the track? I guess, but I don't think where Ollie put his car was unreasonable, in my opinion. And Alex knows Ollie is ahead, and you know, it's a bump, it's a lift off, it's dirty air from the car ahead, all kind of working in combination, and they have contact. It is unlucky, but I do think it was a majority on Alex. And obviously, yeah, since Franco's been cooking, like the pressure's really hyped up. I mean, it is mad though, isn't it? How like, you know, obviously Alex has had a up and down career, okay, and there's been many a down, and it's like he starts doing well, and then like he has, you know, Colapinto starts doing well, and Alex has a couple of, you know, misdemeanors, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, right about Alex all along, always washed, doesn't deserve the seat, blah, blah. I was like, whoa, hang on a second, like, Jesus, like, yeah, he's had a bit of a bad run of form, but let's not forget, like, everything he's achieved in that Williams team. Yes, he's not had a great teammates to benchmark against, but like P7 in Canada, it's a hell of a performance like last year. Like he's had many a highlight moment as well. So it's like someone said earlier about the whole Ferrari sat the wrong driver thing. It's like people, you know, very reactive sometimes, and I think look, Alex is gonna have a hell of a test with Carlos Sainz in the car next to him next year, right? Carlos Sainz is a known entity, okay? We know how good Carlos Sainz is. We know how adaptable he is as well, right? So I see no reason to believe that Carlos won't be rapid in a Williams, and he won't be able to get as close to the ceiling in the Williams as he is the ceiling of that Ferrari, because he's always, you know, apart from that time at Renault, which wasn't amazing, you know, he's always been quick. So it's going to be a hell of a test for Alex. But again, you know, what? If Alex gets fairly close to Carlos, well, that just paints an even better picture of Franco Colapinto. The best thing that can happen to Franco is Alex do well relative to Carlos, because that just makes Franco look better. But yeah, it wasn't a good weekend for Alex all in all, but at least he got to Q3. Sainz will dominate. He probably will. Do I think he'll dominate Alex? I think like qualifying head to head. I reckon it will be like 2/3 in favour of Sainz. That's my prediction. I think underrate him at your own peril. Famous last words, but I'm saying him. Okay, I'm saying him. I'm putting him out there. As for Franco, yes, he had obviously his little ding dong with Liam Lawson ended up with front wing damage for Liam. All in all, he went out in Q1. He had a okay race. It wasn't, it's the kind of race you would expect a rookie who's just jumped in to have. And Franco has come in and set a very high bar, very high standard very early on. This was probably his weakest race so far, but it still wasn't a bad race at all. So, yeah, Franco's just continuing to impress. And I think a performance like this, it was always going to come eventually. And, held his own against Piastri. Yeah, no, I agree. I think he, I think he did a good job. Did a good job. Not super impressive, but when you consider his lack of experience, it was pretty impressive. It's just that he set such a high bar already. So well done. Well done, Alexander, for qualifying. Well done, Franco, for doing all right in the race. Red Bull Racing. Perez. He was saying about the brakes in qualifying. I mean, I don't know. It seems to happen so often. I'm like, is it the brakes or is it just looking for an excuse? I don't know. It's just end this pain. I saw there was a picture going around on Twitter after qualifying of Checo just giving a wave, and he looked absolutely distraught. I was like, bro, I know he's got this like never give up thing, right? And I respect it, but it's like it just feels like it's too much, like for him to put himself through this, and there's so much. It's come from a lack of performance. Ultimately, none of this talk around Checo, and it's very easy to be, the media's all against me. Yeah, but bro, like the results speak for themselves, and it's just another absolute howler. And what more is there to say? Like, it's a square peg round hole. It was last year. It has been for a very long time, and it's not going to change. Checo's not a 20-year-old anymore. He's got a driving style that can adapt and change because, he's young and he's got his way of driving. It works around certain tracks. It doesn't work on most. In this Red Bull, by the way, in this Red Bull specifically, it's not like he's never been able to drive on any track but Baku. Look at 2020 season. Look at that season. Unbelievable in the pink Mercedes. Sad. And then Max Verstappen. I mean, look, we'll talk about the Max Lando incident at the end. Once we've gone through, just to talk about McLaren. I almost forgot about the incident. It's 2 incidents. Piastri, again, unfortunate in qualifying, made a mistake, went out in Q1, uphill battle from there on, got to P8. I mean, should he have done more? He finished behind Kevin Magnussen, giving himself an uphill battle. And again, he needs to be firing all cylinders as well as Lando between now and the end of the year to convert that Constructors' Championship. There's been a little bit of a wobble from Oscar, for sure. But we know he's quick enough. He feels like last few weekends, he's just not been able to get the car in a place that he's happy with it. And that has reflected in the results. Oscar saying, mate, think about pulling me out of this. Yeah, that was funny. That was funny. But starting on the mediums wasn't really the one, was it? Especially trying to go long on the mediums didn't really help his cause. And he just wasn't closing that gap quickly enough at the end. And then, Lando. I think Lando drove a pretty good race. Didn't gain position at the start, but didn't lose it either. yeah, and obviously with the move on Max, we'll get into that. But yeah, otherwise, he didn't have the pace to catch Carlos, but he kind of spooked Charles into a mistake, and P2 not fully capitalising on Max's misfortune in terms of him finishing P6 anyway, but still a decent point swing in the end. Thank you, Chinwag, by the way. Checo has some dirt on Christian and Marco. Cool. And then finally, Red Bull Racing. Well, we'll talk about the Max Lando incident. Right. Okay. First, we're gonna do a poll. A little poll. Okay. Right. This is the poll for everyone on YouTube Live. All 1,890 of you are here. Thank you very much for watching this live. And don't forget to like the stream. By the way, double check you've liked the stream. And make sure you subscribe to the Tommo YouTube channel. Okay. Or rate him 5-star Apple Podcast, all that good stuff. To support what I do. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you taking the time. Did Max deserve his first penalty? So this is the first one. For pushing Lando wide. So Lando's on the outside in that's kind of second DRS bit. Lando on the outside, Max on the inside, and Lando has to kind of goes over the grass and is ahead of Max, basically. So the first one, the 10 seconds in isolation. Should have been 5 seconds, Dimitri. Yeah, because they have they usually do 10 seconds now, don't they? For those kind of incidents. I'm sure they usually do those ones. By the way, thank you, Michelle, for the super chat. Crofty predicting Science P3 race finish during FP2, which was really giving. I want to see P. Michelle, I love that one. That's an iconic moment. Iconic. I want to see P3, yeah? Why P3? Oh, that was good, Michelle. I like that one. Good morning from Melbourne. Love Melbourne as well. Love Melbourne. Beautiful place. Beautiful place. Just make sure I haven't missed any. Patrick, thank you for the super chat. Lawson said to my mate that he's Red Bull and DR3 RB. Lawson said to my mate that he's Red Bull and Daniel Ricciardo is at Racing Bulls. Did Lawson say that to your mate? Or maybe, Patrick, was it your mates, cousins, friends, plumbers, pen pal? Was that it? I'm not sure if I believe that, Patrick, but maybe we'll look back and be like, wow, Patrick was right all along. Patrick was right all along. I just want to make sure I haven't missed any super dopey chats. Super dopey. Don't think I have. Oh, thank you, Puck Goblin, as well. Just want to drop an LO for one of my favourites. Thank you, Puck. Early doors with the super chat. Appreciate that. Right, so what are you saying in the poll? 483 of you voted. And again, remember, 78.5% of you are not British. According to the statistic, the analytics, okay? 78.5% of you are not British. Not. Look. Oh, wait, no, sorry. 77.5 of you are not British. It's just over 3/4, okay? Oh, dear. It's late, isn't it? 25 past midnight. 80% of you believe Max deserved his first 10-second penalty. So 20% of you think he didn't deserve his first. And I'm assuming some of you think maybe it should have been a 5-second penalty. The thing is, so I've watched it back and I don't see a point in that overtake where Lando isn't at least alongside Max. At least alongside. For a lot of it is ahead. And I think Lando knew he needed to carry enough speed to be at least alongside at the apex. And I believe he that was the case. Should it be a 10-second penalty? I mean, the reason the stewards aren't like super open to like just saying what they're going to give beforehand for penalties, so that the teams can't like game. That's the idea, right? They can't game the system. So does 10 seconds seem hard? I mean, if that's what they're going to give for those kind of incidents, that's what they're going to give. They seemed, when they gave penalties for pushing wide, which, I mean, they didn't give one to Liam. They didn't give one to Checo either. But then I think, did Yuki get one? No, of course he didn't, because he crashed. What am I? He literally crashed, like, immediately. So, of course he didn't get one. You can argue maybe it should have been a 5-second, blah, blah, blah. 10's a bit harsh. But I think it's Lando's at least alongside, if not ahead, at the apex and throughout the entire move, really. So, yeah, I think it is a penalty. Like, absolutely. Okay, cool. So, vast majority of you believe the first one was a penalty. And then, did Max deserve a penalty for the second incident? The second incident where he's obviously behind Lando, and it's just, it's literally just after. Behind Lando, and there was you watching it and you're like, was Lando trying to give the place back? And then you realise how much speed Max is carrying into that corner. And then you're like, oh no, Max just kind of just went. Right, so 322 of you have voted. 331, right. Okay, let's do the maths. So, right. So, of 331 people who have voted at the time, 7% of you have said he did not deserve a penalty, which means 23.17 of you, exactly, don't think Max deserved a penalty for that second one. Frederick, I pressed no by mistake. 7%, 8% of you, sorry. Like, there are some incidents like is there? I would love to see a compelling argument as to why Max did not deserve a penalty for the second one. I mean, come on. I don't know what he was thinking. And, like, what was he thinking? What was he thinking there, do you think? In that moment, I'm trying to imagine being in, right. So Lando's, he pushed Lando wide, and Lando was at least alongside, if not ahead, for that apex. And Lando stays ahead. Max can see that, and is he like? Did he just think, oh God, I've got to get back past Lando quick because if he felt like Lando had wrongfully taken the position, then you don't need to necessarily make that desperate lunge because, well, Lando, if Max sits there and believes, right, well, Lando, gained position incorrectly and I didn't force him off. If he genuinely believes that, then, well, Lando will get a penalty. Just like what happened last week, but the other way around, where Lando did overtake Max off track. Like, that is literally a fact. And Lando got a penalty, and he should have stayed behind, and blah blah blah, whatever. Right? That's old news now. And yeah, I just like, I don't know what he was thinking. Like, I don't get it. I really, I like, of course. The only reason you can look at those instances and think Max doesn't have a penalty is because you're biased, right? Obviously, that's the case because it's so obvious, it's so clear and obvious to everyone in the room, everyone. What was going through Max's head? Like, genuinely, in that moment, like, he's obviously like, that's not that. No, you don't overtake at that corner. It's you barely slow down, but you slow down enough that Max just didn't slow down and went half a mile off the track. Like, I don't. Max doesn't have to do this. Like, he doesn't have to. A move like that is just. It's so reckless and it's so short-sighted. Like, short-sighted. What is he doing? Because essentially, like, if Lando doesn't pull out of that, because obviously Lando's not expecting Max to just steam up the inside into what is barely a corner. I mean, Lando has, like, I think there is, like, in that moment, is Max just like, right, I just need to get ahead of Lando, whatever happens. If I torpedo him, if I literally just take Lando out, he won't score more points than me. Like, I don't know. I don't know what was going through his head at the time. There is absolutely no way that I've not seen much of the post-race stuff, much of the chat afterwards. I've not seen really any of it. But if you can't, like, just put your hands up and be like, I don't know what Max has said. I don't know what Red Bull have said. But there's absolutely nothing to. There's no conversation to be had here. Like, it was ridiculous, and I don't. If Max got further punishment for that second one after the fact, because there's no way those two incidents are the same. Like, the first incident, Max does push him wide. Okay, it's close. Like, Max is close to being ahead at the apex, but he isn't. And it's 10 seconds, and that's the rule, fair enough. But this one, like, honestly, I think the second one, Max should have got a drive through. That's what I think. I think the second one, Max should have got a drive through, because and a drive through where you have to serve it, imminently, right? Because that is like, you can't do that. Like, that's not race. And also, like, obviously then Lando was behind Max, and obviously Max was slower than Lando. So Lando's then behind Max in dirty air that he wouldn't have been in otherwise if he'd have been ahead of. So that ends up hurting Lando's race. Like, for me, that is a stonewall drive-through penalty. Because then you're like immediately punishing the incident. You're not waiting ages to then serve a 20-second drive-through like later on in the race. You're punishing it in the moment. So I very much waffled through that one. I do apologise. Thank you, Dan, by the way, for the super chat. Appreciate it. Thank you, Hunter. More IMO. An overtake there was never on. He made no attempt to make the corner, and if Lando doesn't move, he's in his side pod. Max is better than this. Hunter, I completely agree. I don't know what you don't need to do this, Max. Like, it's just it really does. Like, you think about, like, Schumacher, right? As a driver who, he would flirt with the edge of the rules. And then there were a few times in Michael's career where he overstepped the rules. And to me, as a fan, looking back at his legacy, Michael was incredible, right? And he's obviously one of the greatest of all time. But those points, him and Damon, for example, is an easy one. Those times where he clearly did overstep the mark do somewhat stain my, perception of Michael's career. They do. They just do. And it's things like this that you're just like, Max, bro, like, you've gone too far, clearly too far. He's nowhere near staying on track. It's a lunge that's not even trying to make... Max knows what he's doing. He knows he's not going to make the corner. He is fully aware, more than anyone else in the world, that going into that corner, going past Lando, he is not going to make that corner. And he's putting his car in a position where Lando has to get out of the way or they crash. And there is no other way of looking at it. There is no other way of looking at it. It's crazy that I just don't know what he's thinking. He just settles in behind Lando, give the position back. I don't know why Red Bull weren't telling him give the position back. Obviously, it's a penalty. You know, even the first one is like pretty clearly a penalty, right? And you can argue maybe it's a bit hard, like 10 seconds over 5. But it's obvious. So just give him the position. You've done more harm. I don't like. Were Red Bull telling him to give the position back? I don't think they were. I don't think they were. Thank you, Dan, again, for the super chat. No matter how many achievements Max gets, I can't bring myself to respect him. He has the mindset of a child who thinks his own owes the world. Oof, Dan, ouch. Look, that's how Max and so many of the greats in this sport, you know, it's understanding the rules. And I think, you know, Max played to the rules in Austin, okay? And what happened in Austin, yeah, it's not what I want to see as racing, but Max knows the regulations and played to those regulations. And I can't begrudge him for that, okay? But in this, and look, again, that first incident, Max is close to being ahead at the apex, but I don't believe at any point Max is ahead at the apex. Not at a single point. Lando is either ahead or it's level. Like I just said, incidents like this will be the, you know, this and like Brazil 21, you know, even Saudi 21, when Max launched it up the inside, he's not making the corner at any point, and he just like it's not there's a time where you just have to concede the position, and when you're doing this, it's like, right, well, I'm going to make the stewards make a decision or we're going to crash. And because Max has less to lose, he can afford to do that. And it goes from dark arts to being pretty unsportsman. Like, and ultimately this is F1 and it's dangerous, you know. That would have been a pretty high speed crash if Lando hadn't got out of that. So, yeah. Max doesn't do himself any favours with stuff like this, and he's good enough that he doesn't need to play this dirty sometimes, and that was really dirty today. That was really dirty. Is this the end of the friendship between Max and Lando? I mean, Vladislav, I think that, you know, so many. You look at Hamilton Rosberg, you know, really good personal relationship, and then on track stuff ended up souring that, and I don't know. I can't sit here and speak for their individual personal friendship. What will be right in that front. Can they keep it separate? I feel like, you know, Max surely has to acknowledge he was in the wrong here. Like, even just privately, even if he never does it publicly, surely Max can watch this back objectively and be like, yeah, you know what, like, fair enough, fair cop. Like, I went for a desperate move and I went for the lunge and I shouldn't have done it. Because again, the first one, like, he's entitled to go for that, to try and defend that position. And, you know, he pushed Lando wide and it happens. That's racing, right? I don't think Max should be like there shouldn't be any additional consequence from that first one at all. But yeah, that second one, like, bro, like, what are you doing? That's just nah, absolutely. Thank you always for the super chat. I think the FIA is partly to blame for recent Max and other incidents with track limits. FIA seems too scared to set a precedent by handing out penalties. Look, maybe with the first one, but the second one, The second one to me is nothing to do with track limits or any of this, should we have gravel runoffs, blah, blah, blah. No, that's just like driving dirty to like, I don't know what he was trying to do. Was he trying to take Lando out? Like, I don't know how many ways you can look at this, because Max is the most capable driver in Formula One. He's the best driver in Formula One. He knows he's not making that corner. So what is he trying to achieve by doing that? How many conclusions can you come to? And, again, I'm sure, right? He at the moment, and he's got caught up by something. And I've said this before. Like, I think Max has not got very many weaknesses. But I do believe that there are moments where his temper gets the better of him and causes him to make suboptimal decisions. And that was a very suboptimal decision, because I don't know how many ways you can look at that. And if he gets more of a penalty after the race, and some kind of penalty, I would not be surprised if Max is carrying a penalty into the next race, because I don't know how else you can look at that second incident other than dirty, dangerous driving. Tom, I thought Lando dealt with it very well. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I did. What else can Lando do? Like, it's just like, well, what can he do? What can he do in that moment? Yeah, it's a drive-through penalty for me, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets something post-race. But there you go. That's my thoughts and my feelings. Right, I'm going to wrap this stream. We've been live for an hour and a half. It's 1:45 in the morning. And if you do want to support on Patreon, well, I'm going to close this stream. And then in about 10 minutes, maybe 5 even, I will set up I will go live on Patreon. So if you want to support what I do over there, you've been very generous with the super chats tonight. I do very much appreciate it. But if you want to support me on Patreon as well, you can. You can do soft tier channel memberships here, medium and hard tier on Patreon. Right. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for stopping by. It's been a pleasure as always. Video early. To be honest, I'm gonna do a video. My video is gonna be about this latest incident. Maybe with a bit of British bias talk in there as well, because that's always a fun subject to talk. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do, but we'll maybe talk about it more in the Patreon live stream. But yeah, cheers everyone. Thank you all for watching. Appreciate you all as always. My name's Tomo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.